Well, in case you hear that clicking, it's not somebody typing on their phone, it's the air conditioner. And just pretend it's a fountain in the background. Reframe it. Just reframe it. Author John Perkins, in his book, The World as You Dream It, says, "We have dreamed it, therefore it is. I have become convinced that everything we think and feel is merely perception, that our lives, individually as well as communally, are molded around such perception, and that if we want to change, we must alter our perception. When we give our energy to a different dream, the world is transformed. To create a new world, we must first create a new dream." And as we conclude our Soul of Money series for October, we're talking today about changing the dream. About changing the dream. Like Dr. Martin Luther King in 1963, his speech, "I Have a Dream," changed and transformed the civil rights movement. We too can change our dream and live, and how we live about our relationship with money, or our prosperity series that we're talking about all month. Many people are stuck in what's known as not enoughness. Not enoughness. Always thinking, I need more. We talked about that a little bit a couple of weeks ago. You know, if it's on sale, I better buy it too, right? I need more. How much is enough? And we also then talked about some ways that we could discover our own thresholds. Did you do any of those practices? Did you discover your threshold of enoughness? Did you figure out where that was? Yeah? Did you play the lottery last week? Everybody did, right? Oh my gosh. $1.537 billion? That's a lot. Can you even imagine that much money? I know, it's hard, isn't it? Is it enough? Is that enough? More than enough. There you go. More than enough. In California, they were selling 200 tickets a second. A second. On the East Coast, it was reported they were selling 151 a second. I am personally proud that my home state, Virginia, was selling 211 per second. Thank you very much. Right? Is it enough? The winning ticket, of course, was in South Carolina, a single winner. They've not yet, I didn't hear if they've come forward yet. KC Mart, number 7, outside of Greenville, South Carolina. Greenville, South Carolina. So when you were playing the lottery, if you were, or if you were watching it in the news, or if you even heard about it, or if you just listened to what I just said, $1.5 billion, did you dream about what you would do with it? Did you think about what you might do with it? Where would it go? You found some sort of a special center, or maybe a shelter for those less fortunate, or animals that needed a home, or some endowment program, or maybe build a hospital, or I just need a new car and I'd like a new house, right? Did you dream about what you would do with that? Yeah, it's kind of fun to play in that, isn't it? In that realm of what if. That realm of, if money were no object, what would I do? Who would I be? Always powerful questions, aren't they? Always powerful questions. But if that's the dream, that idea of winning big, the big jackpot, if that's the dream, is reality the nightmare? I don't think so. For most of us, we're okay, right? We're okay. We have homes to live in. We have transportation. We have food. We're okay. We're okay. But why do we fantasize about mega millions? Why do we fantasize about that? Is it a belief in not enoughness, in being happy with what we have? Or is it just plain fun? Is it just plain fun? What is it about that? What's back of that belief? Now, don't get me wrong. Don't misinterpret that I'm saying don't buy lottery tickets. I'm certainly not. The lottery in Arizona, did you know it generated $92 million for our state last year? And that $92 million that came into our state went for arts and education, health and human services, the environment, and economic and business development. So the circulation is good, right? Circulation is good. All I'm suggesting is that this is an opportunity for us to look at our why. To look at our why. Look at what's behind or below the belief that we're having with that. What is motivating us to do that, to go buy that ticket? And there's millions of reasons, aren't there? There's millions of reasons. And each one of us would have a different reason for doing so, I'm sure. But we need to make sure and check in with ourselves is it a belief in scarcity? Is it a belief in not enoughness? Is it a sense of lack that keeps us going and playing and thinking that that's how we're going to pay the rent next month by winning the lottery? Okay? So what is the value that you place on that $2 that you take in, and know what it is now? It's $2 to buy a number. What is the value of that $2? And what is the value of the ticket itself? When you first buy it, before the numbers are called, it's worth that $1 million, isn't it? But then if you don't get any numbers, it suddenly becomes worthless. It becomes trash, doesn't it? Same piece of paper, same numbers, different value, that quick. That quick. And then the experience of buying the ticket. How do you feel when you go to the counter? What are you feeling when you do that? And the experience of winning. When you start seeing your winning numbers come up, how do you feel? How do you feel when you don't have any winning numbers? Disappointed? Oh well, just the way it is. I never win anything. What are your feelings? There's so many emotions in that process, aren't there? So if you didn't buy a lottery ticket, go buy one this week. It's a lot of experience in there for you to have some fun with. Check in. Lynn's point in her book, The Soul of Money, that we've been using for our conversation all month, is not about the lottery. It was just a real life example that we had this week that I could use. But the book, she's saying to get in touch with our perception of money and how we use it as a tool as opposed to allowing it to use us. To use us. And it's a way to check in with what's true for you. Shifting our values and perceptions around money, like anything, starts in our mind, doesn't it? In our thoughts. We must shift our thinking around beliefs in order to change those beliefs. Thoughts like never enough, emptiness, fear, mistrust, envy, greed, hoarding, competition, fragmentation, separateness, judgment, striving, entitlement, control, busy, survival, outer riches. Scary stuff. Scarcity is scary, isn't it? Those are scary words. They bring you down. You can feel the energy in the room just kind of going down on those words. Scary, scary stuff. As opposed to gratitude, fulfillment, love, trust, respect, contributing, faith, compassion, integration, wholeness, commitment, acceptance, partnership, responsibility, resilience, inner riches, joy, sufficiency. Like this little girl's face. Joy. There's nothing lacking in her. She got the biggest smile and the biggest pumpkin, doesn't she? She's quite happy. She feels completely fulfilled, I bet. Yeah. In Science of Mind, we talk a lot about the power of our word, don't we? We have classes about the power of our word. We talk about the power of our word in prayer treatment to direct the law of our lives. In Genesis, in the Bible, that first book, it talks about the Word of God in creation. Now, whether you believe that to be absolute truth or myth, it's still representative of the creation process, isn't it? Speak our word into law, directing the law of our lives into the creation that we wish to experience. The teaching of Jesus was all about the power of the Word. Was all about the power of the Word. Even in our center the past couple of weeks on Wednesday nights, we had a couple of workshops, one that Will Bashan did and the one that Mary Ellen Smith did, both of which were talking about the power of words and intuition, and in the Science of Mind with Ernest Holmes, and how Ernest had his own dictionary that he kind of created of metaphysical terms. If you've read Science of Mind, you may have discovered some of his definitions. And if he capitalized a word, it had a different meaning than if he didn't. And if he really wanted to get your attention, he capitalized every letter in the word to make sure you got the point of what he was talking about. So some very powerful examples for us. And of course, in our co-creation workshop, we learned that words, even that we think we know the meaning of, may have different meanings, either culturally or societally, today than maybe they used to. One of the words that we were talking about was assimilation, and how that's got a negative context today, that it means giving up who you were to merge into something new, as opposed to bringing your individualization into an organization. It's not the way I learned it, but that's the meaning today that's associated with it. So words have power. Our words have power. Lynn, in her book, says that the words we say simply represent our inner thoughts. The words we say simply represent our inner thoughts. I've thought about that. For some reason, that phrase jumped out at me. And I've thought about it as simple but profound. It's simple but profound when I think about conversation. When I think about conversation, the two-way communication, right? Thoughts represent our words represent our inner thoughts. So the conversation that I'm having is representing my inner thoughts. The conversation you're having with me is representing your inner thoughts. Are we truly communicating? Or am I deciphering what you're saying based on my perceptions? Are you hearing, understanding my intent when I speak with you? So it's the idea of listening differently. When we can bring our awareness into this idea of the thoughts and understanding clearly the communication, we can listen differently. We can listen to what's back of the words, and we can then ask clarifying questions. I really want to understand what you're telling me. Could you say that in a different way? Or here's what I believe you to be saying. Is this what you're saying? Oh, no, that's not what I'm saying at all. This is what I'm saying, right? Clearing up communication. Clearing up communication. And right now we're immersed in our practitioner training. You know that we're training our first practitioner here in our center. Very excited about that, Lisa Harkness. And the second year of practitioner training is all about learning the tools of working with clients in sessions for spiritual guidance. And so we're teaching these tools of conversation right now. And what practitioners really do is help us discover for ourselves the spiritual truth that exists within us of the cause of the effects that we're experiencing. Usually when we go and visit with one of our practitioners, we're in the midst of some sort of an effect in our life. Something's happening, usually, right? Something's happening that we would like to be and experience differently. And the practitioners then help us to discover the cause so that we can plant that new seed and have a new effect in our lives. So it's a discovery process. They don't tell you how to fix yourself. That's not what they do. They help you find your own way to the truth that lives within you. They shine the light on the path, so to speak. They shine the light on the path. So learning that words are powerful, not only representing our inner thoughts, but words also allow us to share our hearts, don't they? Words allow us to share our hearts, our desires, what's important to us, our pain, our joy. Now, intellectually, we know that our words have power, don't we? We know that our words have power. We know they have the power to heal or to harm, to comfort or to hurt, to create clarity or to create confusion. Would you agree? Intellectually, we know that. Have you ever caught yourself in a conversation and gone, I wish I hadn't said that? Left a meeting and going, well, that didn't go so well. Yeah, we do. Even though we're aware, even though we intellectually know the power of our words, we still do it sometimes. We still open our mouths and out comes words. We go, where did that come from? Am I the only one? Roxy, you're not the only ones? Come on. All right, thank you. A couple of weeks ago at our board meeting, we were having a conversation about communication. Now, I don't want to start a rumor. We are not having any issues at the board level. Not having any issues at the board level. But we were discussing the power of words. and the power of communication, particularly in a spiritual center. And we looked at the global idea of respectful communications. Respectful communications. And many of you have been around the teaching for a long time, and you may have been exposed to this document that I'm going to share with you in a little bit about respectful communication. And when I shared this with the board and we talked about it, they asked if I would share it with everyone. So talking about the power of our word today, this seemed like a good time to do so. So we're going to talk about that. Now, as I have practiced this technique in my life over the years, after I learned it several years ago and I've practiced it, I find that it is a tool of awareness that allows me to be more comfortable in conversation. And it works in my personal relationships, my business relationships, as well as in spiritual centers. It is a process of communication that definitely works, and good reminders. And I know, fortunately, that we do not have a problem in our community. And we're building our foundation this year. We've been talking about that all year, how we're building the pillars of the foundation of our community to get all of our processes, policies, and so forth in place to grow the community, to have this good foundation upon which it can grow, right? And this would be one of the pillars of good communication, clear communication, and building the culture of our community for how we communicate and interact with each other. So that when people come in, they get a clear idea of how we communicate with each other. Make sense? Yeah. So this work comes from Reverend Dr. Edward Villoon, the senior minister of Santa Rosa Center for Spiritual Living up in Northern California. And I know it's going to be small on the slides. We've got it posted up on the website. It's under About Us on our website tab, so you can get a copy of it if you'd like. He's written it, of course, from the minister's perspective, and vice versa, and it's applicable to all of our relationships. So think about it from that global elevation as we run through this. If you have a problem with me, come to me privately for a conversation or email. Personally, I prefer in person because I want to see your face, right? You may have your own preferences around that. If I have a problem with you, I'll come to you. If you have a problem with me, come to me, right? It works both ways, doesn't it? Wouldn't you rather have that? Wouldn't you rather have that? If someone comes to you with a problem about me, send them to me. Send them to me. If I have a problem with Cerise, I'm not going to go talk to Joe about it, right? That doesn't make any sense. Joe can't do anything. Am I asking him to go take care of it? No. I need to talk to Cerise if I have a problem there. If someone consistently will not come to me, then you invite them, let's go together. Let's go together. Joe, let's go together and talk to Cerise, right? Let's go together. And that avoids this thing in psychology that's called triangulation. Growing up as kids, we all knew how to do that very well. We probably had one parent who we knew was a little bit more flexible in a particular area that we would go to and ask to borrow the car keys because this one's going to say no, right? We all knew about triangulation as children. It is a psychological term, and it happens in community, not just in spiritual community. It happens in business. It happens in families. Please do not interpret me. I would rather you ask me what I meant. You can text me, right? We have the text thing. You can text me. I can text you. What do you mean by that when you said that? I'm not clear on that. Tell me more. Say that in a different way. On matters that are unclear, do not feel pressure to interpret my feelings or thoughts. Ask me. Ask me. I've used this in business meetings on countless occasions where I stop the meeting and go, I'm sorry, I'm not following what you're saying and I'm confused. Would you please clarify that for me? And people don't mind. People don't mind. Most people, I find, would rather be understood. They would rather that we have clarity rather than taking it home with us and stewing over it and being upset by it and letting it become something that it wasn't ever intended to be, right? I will be careful how I interpret you, and if I am unclear, I will ask you what you meant. If it's confidential, don't tell me. If it's confidential, don't ask me to tell you. It's one of my favorite things. Somebody will come up and go, I got something to tell you, but it's really confidential. Please don't tell me. Because I look at that as a burden. To take something that's confidential and to hold that, that is not something that was confided in me, that's kind of a burden to ask someone to hold a confidence for you that is not theirs to give you. So I really like that idea. If it's confidential, don't tell me. And if it's confidential, don't ask me to tell you. It's a sacred thing. I do not read unsigned letters or notes. I do not respond to unnamed complaints, some of which begin with, I have heard several people saying. So that's always an interesting thing in business. I love letters to the editor that start out like that. A lot of people say, people are talking about. So those are things that help clear up communication. Several people have said, great, who is saying it? Have them come to me, right? Have them come to me. Please do not hint to me, hoping I will understand your need or know what you meant me to hear. I prefer you say exactly what you mean. Anybody know anybody that beats around the bush about stuff? Tell me what you mean. Because they're over here talking about this, going around and around and around the bush. We think they're talking about the bush, but they're talking about the tree. What? Get to the point. Tell me what you mean. Parking lot or hallway griping is poisonous. If you need to complain, please do it only with the intention of healing it, and even then, tell only the one who can do something about it, and I will do the same. I see that in business frequently, where there's, complaining about some policy or some process or something that's happening in the office, but they're complaining to the receptionist who doesn't have any power to fix the problem or the situation. Talk to the person in charge of that who can actually affect it. If it's bothering you, it's bothering other people, you've probably got good ideas on solving the problem. They would love to hear about it. But if you're telling the receptionist who can't do anything about it, it's ineffectual. Make sense? Yeah. So make sure that it's for the purpose of healing. Talk to a practitioner if it's something on that level in our center. When in doubt, just say it. It's the traditional, the only dumb question is the one that doesn't get asked. And I look at that the same way. If you've got a question, somebody else has the same question. We're all one in the one mind, in the one consciousness. If you've got a question, somebody else has the same question. Be brave. Ask it. Let's see what's going on. All right. I hope that you can see the beauty and the benefit of clear communication. It is a powerful, powerful tool in our lives that can impact, as I say, personal and professional relationships. And when we can all operate from this place, our conversations become sacred. They become easy. Confidences become sacred, easy to keep. And connections are strengthened, aren't they? Scared? It's Halloween. Boo. Anyway, so this practice helps to empower us as individuals and as a community. Again, building that culture of who we be, of how we show up, of how we communicate with each other in powerful and truthful ways. So what other ways can we empower our words and our communication, particularly now around money, because that's been our whole topic this month, is this idea of the soul of money and prosperity. Lynn's main premise in her book, The Soul of Money, is that to shift into this higher awareness of sufficiency, not scarcity, but sufficiency. And she doesn't really ever say it that way, but it's how I interpret it spiritually, is that we're moving into the higher awareness. When we can elevate ourselves into that higher consciousness, that higher awareness of the divine mind, and we can go to that level, we can begin to anchor ourselves in the sufficiency of the source, of the divine, of spirit as our source, of the source of all that is, ever has been, ever will be. God is all there is. It's one of the first steps of our treatment, is recognizing that God is all there is. And that speaks to this idea of sufficiency. If all is created of the divine, then there's more than enough. We may not be allocating it in a balanced and equal way on our planet. Would you agree? There are areas that appear to be lacking, right? But when we look at the level of waste in a landfill, Goodwill, Amazon, the the circulation of Amazon out in the world, that's just my house, right? Just around my house. We can see that it may be imbalanced, but it doesn't mean it's not sufficient. It doesn't mean that our round planet doesn't have sufficient everything it needs to sustain itself. We're just maybe a little out of balance in some areas. So when we can start to have that higher perspective, we can begin to grasp her perspective on this and the soul of money and using our money in soulful ways. Our personal work for ourselves is to define what is enough. What is enough? And to begin to shift ourselves out of these ideas of not enough, more is better, and that's just the way it is. Let's look at our practicing the principles this week and see how we might be able to use them in our life. Number 1, listen to your conversations and the power of your words. Listen to, be aware of, pay attention to your conversations. What are you saying and thinking while you're in conversation with someone? What are you hearing from them? What are you hearing from them? And apply some of these ideas of clear communication. Ask those clarifying questions when you're not sure exactly what they're saying. Summarize and clarify what you've heard. And the classic, seek first to understand before being understood. Number 2, take one day. Pick one day this week and act as if you live in sufficiency. Act as if you live in total and complete sufficiency. There's enough of everything I need today. Imagine starting every morning that way. There is enough of everything I need today. I am enough today. I am enough today. Notice how you feel. Does it feel good even just hearing that? Yeah. Imagine using that in your life every day. In some European cities, their living spaces are so small that they have really small refrigerators, almost like an under-counter type of thing. So it requires frequent trips to the market for fresh foods, right? And so imagine if you downsize to a tiny house. Everybody's seen the little tiny houses that they're out there now that are so popular, not popular, but they're trendy, I guess. If you had to downsize, how would your buying and shopping change? Well, you'd have to cut up your Costco card, right? Yeah. You'd have to cut up your Costco card. Or your little house would have, tiny house would have to have a trailer behind it or something, right? Someone won the $750 million lottery last night. Was it you? No? Somebody did. It's going to be 40 million again. Going to play? Why? Why not? Those of you that are saying no, why not? Why? Why not? Opportunity to get in touch with our money consciousness, right? Opportunity to get in touch with our money consciousness. And number 4 is really a public service reminder. A daily spiritual practice. Meditate, pray, journal, affirm. I cannot tell you how many people in the last 3 months have come to me in this community sharing with me how they made a commitment the first of the year to a spiritual practice and how transformative it has been in their lives. Thank you to those of you who have shared that with me. And I just would invite anyone who does not have a daily spiritual practice to find something that works for you, whether it's prayer, whether it's a reading, whether it's journaling, meditating, whatever it might be. If you need help on establishing a practice that's going to work for you, talk to one of your practitioners. They can help you with that type of thing and to help you find what's going to work for you. That is something that you can do every day. Tapping into our own wholeness, into the divine within us each and every day is an amazing experience. So that's your public service reminder today. So this whole series this month, The Soul of Money, is on our relationship with money, isn't it? And I know we don't usually talk about money in church, but sometimes, they say don't talk about politics and money. or not politics, money, and religion, I guess, are the three. But you know, if we don't talk about them, we don't know how to talk about them, right? Yeah. If we don't talk about them, we don't know how to talk about them. So it all boils down to our choices. It all boils down to our choices. Do I choose prosperity or scarcity for my life? Do I choose prosperity or scarcity? So my question is, can you say yes to prosperity? All right, yes to prosperity. And a reminder that Edwin Gaines' definition of prosperity is a vitally alive physical body, relationships that are satisfying, work that we love, and enough money that we can spend, all the money that we can spend. So it is. Yes. Close it out with Ernest Holmes. We must identify ourselves with the limitless source of prosperity. Identify ourselves with the limitless source of prosperity, love, friendship, happiness, and spontaneous joy. And maintain this identification through new and consistent patterns of thought. And we do that through our spiritual practices, don't we? We maintain it. Know that God is our source, the source of all that is, and maintain that through our daily spiritual practice. May you experience peace and prosperity in all areas of your life this week, and would you join me in an affirmative prayer this morning? Recognizing that there is only one life. That life is God. That life is the power and the presence of the universe. It is the universal flow of all that is. It is the source of all that has ever existed, all that is and all that ever shall be and is ever expanding. It is harmony. It is joy. It is peace. It is alignment. It is order and divine right action. And I know that all of that is here now present in, through, and as me, as an expression of it. I am that light and love. I am that peace and harmony, alignment, joy. For I am sourced of that universal presence and substance. And as I know this for myself, I know this for each of us in the room today, knowing that we are of this divine essence and presence. We are of this loving spirit. It lives within each of us, moves and has its being as our lives, ever expanding and unfolding in greater expression of it as us. And so as I know this unity for us, I speak my word for and about each one of us this morning, knowing, claiming, and accepting the sufficiency that life is as us. Knowing that there is enough. All of my needs are met this day, this moment, this breath. And I know that for anyone that has anything on their heart today, as they lift that into the awareness, into their awareness, into the forefront of their mind, that whatever the need is, if it's clarity, if it's solution, if it is more flow and abundance, if it is health, if it is joy, connection, relationship, whatever it might be, whatever healing may be needed, I know that that is accomplished now in this moment. It is healed, it is whole, it is revealed. And I speak my word also for the Tree of Life Synagogue in Pittsburgh, knowing peace, knowing healing, knowing support and comfort for this entire community and the entire Jewish community as they rally around this group in this unfortunate incident that occurred yesterday. We hold them in love, we hold them in our hearts, we hold them in peace, and we hold them in compassion and healing. So in gratitude for this manifestation, I release this into the activity of mind, into the action of law, knowing that it is done, it is so. It is already completely activated in the mind of God, flowing in, through, and as each of us now. We affirm this together by saying, and so it is.